Hello and welcome to Your HR Career podcast. I am very pleased to be interviewing Jessica Hill today. Hello, Jessica.
Hi, good afternoon.
So delighted to have you on. It's 11 years since we worked together. We worked out just before. So I am so appreciative that you've given me your time and opened up your career brain to me and some super fascinating things. So thank you in advance.
No, you're welcome.
I'm sure there'll be lots of very interesting things as well for people who are thinking about how they're going to progress in their HR career and how they might think about planning it out. So as with the other guests, I sent you a number of questions beforehand.
Yeah, got them.
Which you dutifully answered like a good girl. And I'm not going to cover them all because some of yours I think are super interesting. And in particular, I'm interested in choices you've made about things you've done and how it panned out and kind of whether you would recommend that approach, all that kind of stuff, because I think there's some really interesting ideas. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
So tell us first, where did it all begin, HR wise?
Yeah. So I it wasn't at school, it wasn't in sixth form, it was none of that. That was because you don't really know that that's a thing you can do, HR. I left school, didn't really know what I wanted to do, had done a load of sciences and maths and things, took a year out, had a brilliant year out working, slightly crazy time, went to uni to do a psychology degree because I just thought that would be really interesting. Found people really interesting. Still, that is at the core of why I love this job. I find people fascinating. So did a psychology degree. And then at the end of the degree, you do sort of occupational psychology. And I thought I wasn't going to be an academic, but I find a job that's going to earn me some money. I'm interested in people, knew I didn't want to do sales, marketing type things. Went into HR, went in through my university careers department. How do I get a job in HR? Did apply for the grad schemes, actually got a place on a grad scheme for Jaguar, but they wanted me to move around the country and I didn't want to do that. Then this job advert popped up, not a grad scheme, working in early careers. I just thought, why not? And that was Addleshaw Booth & Co. as it was. Tiny little law firm, really, comparing.
Back in the day, back in the day. So it's interesting then. So and I like to kind of trace that thread that runs through. So your thread is an interest in people.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a number of people on the podcast that I've interviewed have in common with you, and a few psychology degrees as well. So it's kind of that sort of how do I get to work with and through and observe people? Because we're quite a nosy bunch, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And also I think people are fascinating, just literally fascinating how people's brains work.
Yeah. I think as well, like I don't judge. I really just take people for who they are. Everyone always has some good to bring and to give. It takes a lot for me to not like somebody. And I think that means that I always enjoy the people I work with. So a career in HR is just always about people. And that you bring that experience as you get more experienced. You're still always going to meet somebody who's different to anybody you've ever met before.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, after X number of years, I still every so often I'm surprised by somebody or an approach.
Yeah.
I like that point you made there about not judging people, because I think that's a good HR quality, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you've got to be able to, kind of. It's interesting, isn't it, the talk around HR at the minute and how you make it human-centered and where does kindness belong, and that doing the right thing can sometimes feel really hard, but then if you do it in the right way for somebody, that's the right thing to do. And I think the ability to see each individual as a human being in their own right will make you better.
Yeah. Yeah, because you've got a general sense of a policy or a process, but you've also then got a human being in front of you.
Yes.
So it needs to be applied in a bespoke way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, love that. Okay. And talking more broadly then, sort of digging into that a bit more about, I've asked people about what their sort of the biggest HR lesson they learned in their early days was. So thinking back to the start at Addleshaw Booth & Co. as it was then.
Yeah.
What was your big takeaway from that time?
So the biggest thing I learned early on, and this was through working with business leaders, and this is really important, is talk their language, understand what matters to them, understand what is on their to-do list that day, understand what motivates the decisions, informs the decisions, motivates them, and then use their language. Don't use HR language. Like, don't almost come across as a business advisor with an expertise in people. Don't come across as I'm HR. So that, I think I learned that really quickly. So you need to understand them and their business, and then you're credible. And then you can say, that's a stupid idea. That's a brilliant idea. I'm really sorry. I know you're going to hate it, but you do have to do whatever it is. But they know that you get them, and then they'll respect you for what you bring.
I love that. I've written it down. It's an excellent quote. But
Let's go.
How do we get that business knowledge? So if you want to be a business advisor with an expertise in people, strapline t-shirts have been printed. But how do we get that business experience?
Listen, observe, show humility, read, do your research, ask them, what's going on for you today? How are you? What? I need 10 minutes. Can you fit that into your day? What else have you got on? I think all the above.
Loving all that. What about where HR is? Because certainly in my experience, I have been behind glass doors, behind in separate sections, segregated as if you're in some sort of chem lab quarantine situation. What's your take on that? If you're wanting to get to know the business, do you need to be near them?
So two things then, actually. I think physically near them, yes. I always know throughout my career, I have frequently, whether it was in the days of I had my own desk and I sat in a pod of two, or in, the flexible hot desking and then through to the current hybrid, don't sit in an HR room all the time. You need to do it sometimes because you need to create your sense of team and belonging, and you need to, that's your tribe, your HR colleagues. But also go and let the business get to know you as a person, not HR. I can remember sitting in a meeting once with partners and we were talking about performance reviews, and this very senior person at the time just kept calling me HR in the room. What do HR? As if
it was your name.
And looking at me, what do HR think? And I just thought that is fascinating. And I didn't quite go so far as to say I have a name, because then that would have been rude, and then I would have lost credibility in the room. But I did think I need you to get to know me as Jess, not HR. So I think physical, yes, sit people, rock up in the office, sit with them. Some people might be freaked out by you doing that, so be prepared for that. Find a reason, find an excuse, I think, because then you'll just learn by osmosis. You'll hear what's going on, you'll sense the culture, behaviors, and it will also make you a person and you more approachable. I think also the sort of concept of distance. Sometimes the best way to get people to let you in is just to do one thing that they need that's going to make their life easier really well. Yeah. And it might be like a really small thing. Yeah. It might be something you don't really necessarily agree with it, but I don't know, a problem employee that they just can't seem to get through, or it could just be anything really stupid. The desks are annoying, or just something, find something, do it well, and then they'll start to let you in.
Exactly. Yeah. Make something happen.
Yeah.
And I love all of that. There's a big challenge, isn't there? And particularly for anyone who might be listening who is in a role that is remote or home-based organizations.
Yeah.
I think, there's the huge challenge, isn't there, for people that starting out in their careers or moving careers. Like, how do you kind of do that osmosis and absorb stuff when you're not physically with people all the time? And I think the same challenge then presents itself when we think about HR people now trying to get to know a business. Any thoughts on that? Your organization is hybrid now, do you say?
Yeah, we have a kind of sort of half your time in the office, and we're multi-site, so I'm across all locations. So I do get the 6 o'clock train down to London, or I do choose that for myself to physically be present. If you're in an environment, I guess there's something around the technology that's open to how you kind of create that. So maybe it's a leadership WhatsApp chat, or it's a leadership Teams chat, or whatever technology that you use, which is not formal, it's not email to and fro, but again can give quite interesting insight into people and the culture, the language they use, how informal are they, how do they liaise and work as a team when their guard is down a bit, or they feel in a safe space. The other thing would be work out, I think, when for different people across the organization is the point when they are more relaxed and therefore a bit more chatty, or will answer your questions or give you a bit more time. So you'll learn for different leaders. Some people, that's 8:30 in the morning, and that's when I've got some brain space, I can give you some time, Jess, this is where, this is what's mulling through my mind, what do we think? For some people it'll be 8 o'clock in the evening, and then because that's when so you need to get to know. For the 8 o'clock in the evening person, if you call them at 9, they might be awful. Because they're not thinking what you want them to think about. So there's something as well about how you create a relationship over the phone. I mean, over the phone, speak to people, do not rely purely on written, but also how do they communicate when they feel in a safe space, and find a way of tapping into that, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really excellent. Yeah. And I'm as you're talking, I'm thinking and remembering of jobs I've had that have been, remote positioned, and it was phone calls. You would spend hours on the phone just chatting to people, like you said at the start of the session. What's on your mind at the minute? What's on your list? Is there anything I can help with? Is there anything I can take off your list?
Yeah.
I want 10 minutes. When's a good time? You tell me. And that kind of general chit chat on the phone, you can really build quite a strong relationship without having to be physically in the room with people.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gorgeous. I'm loving all of that. So plenty of learning there, early days. So my next question was about, when was your power move and when did it all come together for you? And you've talked a little bit about your move when you eventually left Adulshaw Booth & Co, which had become Adulshaw Goddard by that time. So talk to me about that move and that decision and how that came about for you.
I was really lucky at Adulshaw's that every 2 or 3 years a new opportunity came up. And that was either like a formal job change, or it was something was going on and I got involved. And I know I'm somebody where that constant what's new is what keeps me interested and challenged. And it doesn't need to be, as I said, a new job title but there is something in that. And I was very lucky at Adulshaw's to work, for and with great people. I suppose what I'd say to people, and that is, I mean, there was one move where I kept getting asked, go do this. And I was like, no, actually, I don't want to do that one. And then they'd come back round, we think you need to do this. No, we think you need to do this. And then I was like, oh, fine, I'll do it. I loved it. So I was very lucky at Adulshaw's, but I got to a point where there was one job left for me to do, and it was not going to be mine to have because it wasn't available and wasn't going to be in the near future. And so I had to make a big decision. 19 years is comfortable. It's a big decision to make a step. I'd been toying with the idea for a while. I'm very open with people around me that was what was going to happen at some point. And then just randomly got a call. We've got a job. We think your LinkedIn profile matches. What do you think? Can we have a conversation? And this was the move to Ofcom. And I took a really conscious decision to take a job which was arguably a step down, because I knew that it would be the learning and the challenge was going to come in a completely different sector, unionized where I'd never worked with unions, public private. Like you want to change organizations, I ticked all the boxes. So I just thought, if that's where all the learning and challenge is going to come, then go easy on yourself to at least make the technical aspects of the job stuff that wasn't also going to be learning and challenge. So I took a job where I knew I could do the job. It was smaller than by a long way than what I've been doing. It was more junior, and so I did that. But what I also knew at the time was that this was an organization that changed. There was a couple of years worth of work in it, and there might be an opportunity that would open up there, if not somewhere else. So, you know, I do try and think about what's after the decision I'm making now, and is this going to help get me to there without over planning? And I don't overthink anything, which sometimes could be problematic, I guess. But in career choices, I've definitely learned, like, don't overthink it, just do it. Just do it.
But there were calculations within it. We could class it as a calculated risk, because you'd obviously done some research.
Yeah.
To see what kind of organization it was, what kind of culture it was, how that was a match or mismatch for good or bad from where you were currently. So I can hear research behind it.
Yeah. It wasn't, calculated risk. Yeah, it was. But not fearing bits that were unknown either, I think. And so I did it, went across. And having then done that role, and doing the thing that I do, which is, it started off at a job that was sort of, you know, this big, you know, kind of little job, and I absorbed more and more responsibility, because I think it was kind of obvious to those around that I could, and I took on more, and it sat in my sweet spot around what I'm good at, when I'm kind of, you know, at my core, what my core skills are: operations, refining, compliance, making things right, customer service, all of that. So I completely revamped all of that kind of operational side. But in the meantime, alongside that, the director was also making her own career choices. And so 2 years in, she left and there was a vacancy. And so when you talk about power move, I took a step down. I worked really hard to prove that people around me knew I was bigger than the job I was in. And then when the bigger job came up, I got it.
Love that. And even if that job hadn't come up there, you were still poised for the next number one job, wherever that might have come up.
Yeah, and a much stronger CV because of that. Different sector, different working environment, different, you know, there were so many things that then I could offer an employer.
Yeah. And you said in and amongst that, you said it was a job I knew I could do.
Yeah.
And that was about the nuts and bolts of the job description.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have any misgivings or reservations about the culture, as you say, different sector, unions, public, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Did you have any reservations about that, or were you confident in your ability to do that?
No, I wasn't. I just thought, I'm going to do it. And I know, I suppose, what do we learn? You sort of learn what you're good at. I mean, you know, imposter syndrome's strong, but I knew I was good at people. I knew I was good at building relationships. I knew I was good at knowing how to deliver something to a really high quality so that I'd be credible. So I thought, that's how I'm going to win, you know, at this move.
And that feels like a really substantial foundation, doesn't it? You know, like you said, operations, refining, compliance, customer service, building relationships, that's my safe space.
Yeah.
So all the other stuff that's currently an unknown, unions, etc., it's fine, because that's kind of additional to that. So again, it's that kind of feeling a solid core of self-knowledge, and also having had the opportunity to develop and expand organically. AG kind of gave you that solid foundation. You know, I've done it, I can do it, I'm going to do it again. That kind of idea. Okay, that's really interesting. And I think that's really helpful for people thinking about their next career move. I love your description of kind of, I think about what's next and a bit beyond that, but I don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Do you think do you know other HR people who do overthink things?
Yes.
And it can stop people, can't it?
Yeah.
From taking any kind of risk.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. And you gave a couple of comments as well in your notes to me about not over planning and taking opportunities. And I really liked your idea as well of saying you just basically grafted, you worked hard and you trusted you'd get noticed for that.
Yeah.
You trusted that people would notice that you could do more. Have you ever needed to say to somebody, by the way, I'm totally bored here, chuck a big lump of something over the fence, please? Would you do that?
I would do it. I've not had to do it.
Okay. Fair enough.
No, actually, once, I remember once having a conversation when I was in my 20s with the HR director at the time. I still remember the conversation. I can remember walking down the corridor and she was on the same floor as me, standing in her office. And I said, and I had this arbitrary thing in my head that by the time I was 30, I had to have reached a certain level. And I was like, it's a couple of years away, but it's coming up. I need to actually be at this level by the time I'm 30. And she was brilliant. And she just sort of looked at him. Clearly, she's probably going through her head was, what?
What book have you been reading?
And she just, without, kind of ever saying what, or she did sort of coach me away from that. There was a slightly arbitrary
deadline.
Yeah. But she also heard what I said though, and asked me to trust her and give her time, and she would find something new, and she did. She did. So yes, I have once gone straight up to a director and said, I think I need something different.
Yeah, I'm ready. What have you got?
Fix this for me.
Yeah, exactly. No problem now.
Yeah.
I think that's legitimate, isn't it? But for you, that didn't feel like oh my God, I've got to absolutely, dig deep and ask. It was just I'm just going to ask.
Yeah. And I think that's because I'd built a good relationship with her. So I felt that, wow, what's the worst that's going to happen? I do often, what's the worst that's going to happen? You have to think like that. You have to think like that, don't you? What was the worst that was going to happen in that situation? She just said, you're not ready, or no, or what the hell are you talking about? And I think you have to think that when you're making job change choices as well. What's the worst that's going to happen? The absolute worst, you get sacked. People think you're crap and you get sacked. I don't know. Is that the worst? And can you live through that? Yeah, of course you can. So do it. I do sometimes do a bit of I do it in life as well.
We should hire you out as a motivational speaker. I'm lapping it up.
Yeah. I just think what's the worst going to happen? And if you can cope with the worst, then do it.
Totally. I'm getting t-shirts made, everything. Tremendous. Oh, there's so many. Normally at the end of these, I record a little 2 takeaways. I'm going to have about 14 for you.
So it's starting to feel a bit high risk for people.
I think sometimes people need a bit of shum, get a bit edgy. Why not? Yeah. But like you say, what's the worst that's going to happen? Nobody died.
No, exactly. So you don't enjoy the job, or they think you're crap, or you get another job. And I'm not being flippant. I know it's not always easy to get another job, but it
is possible.
Yeah.
Sure. Brilliant. I could carry on for another 45 minutes. However, I'm conscious of time. Therefore, we have time for one last question. And I'm very excited to hear about this. So where are you now and what is next for you?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've got a plan.
Well,
as sketchy as it might be.
Sketchy is the right word. So I do try and have an eye on what's next. Because I just think that's sensible. And I know for me, that's where I get learning and challenge is I'm not going to do the same. I couldn't do the same thing over and over again. I can be in the same place as I've demonstrated, but doing, what does that look like? And so currently, people, culture and workplace director Ofcom. So I've just broadened the role to include all of our facilities and estates. And we're wrapping that into kind of, the working environment, and that's really important part of your kind of EVP, really, isn't it? What's people's experience of the physical work?
You'll like to be here.
Yeah. And we've done a rapid out of London sort of growth piece across Ofcom, and there's a lot of synergy between HR and facilities, actually, when you start to think about culture and people and workplace. So that's an example of something new. Been in the post a year, but then have now got this part of the role. I've got a team of coming up to 100. So, and that's a combination of outsourced and internal and third parties and things. And it's great. I love it. I love the job. I love the range that I have from kind of, sitting on the exec and spending really great time with senior people in the organization and the board. And then also, the loos aren't flushing, right? Jess, you're director of facilities. What do we do? Like, it's everything in between. But what's next? I sort of fleetingly thought last year, in about 10 years, I want a portfolio career. I don't want to be doing the 9 till 5, Monday to Friday, but I can do it for another 10 years. And I know, because I've coached loads of people through that sort of retirement phase, that you can't just step out of 9 till 5 into a portfolio career. You have to build it in your 40s to then be credible and for it to be decent income and all the rest of it in your sort of 50s. So I did 2 things. I signed up to do my ILM level 7 coaching qualification, which I'm right in the middle of. Slightly insane amount of work. Probably didn't think through how much it actually involves, but loving it. Really great cohort of people that I'm doing it with. Because exec coaching just totally suits me. So as something to do longer term, exec coaching is it. And then the other thing is NED roles. I thought that's brilliant. Isn't that fascinating? Sitting on boards, bringing my expertise. And there is a growing need for HR expertise on boards. So many NED vacancies out there asking for HR expertise because they haven't got people at board level really advising them on culture and people. So last year, I just Googled NED vacancies in the Northwest. And one came up, and I realised I knew a couple of people, did my research, learned how to do a NED CV, learned how to do a NED interview, went in, got the job, love it. Part of the board for the foundation part of Lancashire Cricket Club. Don't know anything about cricket. Told them I didn't know anything about cricket.
And they didn't mind?
No, because they wanted someone who knows HR.
Sure, yeah.
So my portfolio long-term, exec coaching, NED roles. Somebody mentioned mediation the other day. I've not even looked into it, but that could be quite interesting. But that's a really great portfolio career. I have no idea, though, what the next 10 years looks like. I've not made that plan.
So they're quite high, they're kind of big milestones, aren't there? And then we'll see how we bridge the gap between.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. So just living that moment. And I've got a bit of a view as to 10 years. And then what will be in between.
Well, I can't wait to check in with you in 5 years' time to see where you've got to.
Yeah,
on your amazing journey. But I've no doubt you'll achieve it, one way or another.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of, there's a bit of stubbornness there that I will.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
Just a tiny bit. Fantastic. Well, I wish you the very best of luck with all of that. I'm absolutely convinced that you'll achieve all of these things and many more. Thank you so much for your time, Jess. I'm sure everybody's going to take a stack away from that. I can't wait to listen back again and keep writing down lots of top tips from somebody who's smashing their career. So thank you very much for your time. And thank you, everybody, for listening. You can hear this fantastic episode and others over on my Substack channel. And if you would like early access, please sign up to my newsletter. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. See you soon.